If you are struggling to win games in Madden 25, chances are you are using the wrong coaching adjustments. There are a lot of coaching adjustments you can use on both offense and defense to give yourself a better chance to win. So in today's video, I'm going to break down the best coaching adjustments you need to use to win more games. So I want to start by going over all the different defensive coaching adjustments we can use. The defensive side of the ball has a ton of coaching adjustments that actually make like a huge difference. And I'll go over each and every one. I want to start with auto flip and auto alignment. I'm going to break down what these two coaching adjustments do, the different options for each, and the best times to use each individual setting for auto flip and auto alignment. Now, what does auto flip actually do? Well, when you turn it on, it says the CPU will flip your defensive play to best match the offensive formation. But what does this really mean? Well, this means that say if the offense came out in a formation like bunch or trips that has, three receivers on one side of the field. If you turn auto flip on, it will match your defensive formation to the offensive formation. So here, with this bunch formation, we have three receivers to the right. So what that means is it will put this strength of your defensive formation to the strength of the offensive formation. So in a situation like this with nickel, we have a nickel corner. That is obviously the strength of the formation. It's going to match the nickel corner to the bunch. So it's on the right. Now, you'll see that even if they were to flip their bunch or whichever formation that has three receivers, it could be bunch, trips, etc. If they flip it with auto flip on, the nickel corner automatically will go to the left side of the field. Now, when you want to use this, because even though this sounds great in theory, it's not always necessary. It's really good if you're using formations like nickel that are, unbalanced. But if you're using a formation like the dime 3-2, you don't really need to use it because dime 3-2 is symmetrical. And what that means is this formation is the same. It's the same on both sides. You have a linebacker, a safety, a slot corner, or outside corner. There's not a nickel corner. We have a slot corner on each side. So it doesn't really matter if we have auto flip on here. There's going to be a nickel corner on each side of the field regardless. Whether they flip their offensive formation or not, we'll be fine. It also would go for a formation like the 3-4 odd. With 3-4 odd, you'll see that, we don't have any nickel corners, but it's still symmetrical because each side of the formation defensively has an outside linebacker. So again, there's not much of a point of using it here because both sides of the defensive formation are essentially the same. Now, another situation where you would want to turn auto flip off is if you had a blitz that only worked one way. Say you needed to flip the blitz to make it work. So say, for instance, here I wanted to run cross 3 fire flipped. I would want to have auto flip off so I could flip it at the play call screen and make sure that it was flipped regardless of what the offensive formation was that they came out in. I want my blitz flipped. I need to turn auto flip off to make sure I can flip it each and every time. Now let's move on to auto alignment. We have three different options here. We have base, we have man, and we have default. I'm going to tell you when is the best time to use each. First of all, do not use man in Madden 25. Man alignment in Madden 25 is pretty much pointless. It did have a use in past Maddens for certain blitzes especially, but this year you really only want to focus on base and default. So there's advantages of each one. With base, the biggest advantage is there's not really going to be any coverage tells. I can come out in any sort of coverage like a cover 4, I could go to a cover 2. I could go to a cover 3. And you'll notice that all these different coverages, they look the same to the offense. I'm not having safeties move. I'm not having corners move. Everything is looking the same, so the offense does not get a pre-snap read on my coverage. Base also does a better job of defending the sidelines because you have these outside corners. They are more spread out. They are closer to the sideline. They're going to defend the sideline better. They're just in better position. So defending the sidelines and disguising your coverage. Now, I will tell you, there is another way to disguise your coverage where you don't have to use base alignment. but not all formations can do this. So if you're on default alignment and you still want to disguise your coverage, you can use the shell feature. You guys can see here at the play call screen, underneath my 3 play calls, I have the right stick shell. Now, it's set to default right now, but if I can set it to cover 0, 2-man, cover 2, cover 4, really whatever I want. And when you set it, no matter what coverage you pick, it will look like whatever shell you set. So like here with cover 2, if I come out in a cover 4 or any other coverage, this will look like cover 2. So you can actually set it to be a certain shell without having to be on base alignment. You can be on default, and that will still hide your coverage. The thing you need to know about this is not every defensive formation can even do this. Like you can see here, if you're looking to become a better Madden 25 player and win more games, check out sportsgamers.com. This is where I post all my premium content. You get all my offensive and defensive schemes, ebooks, weekly tips, blitzes, money plays, bombs, and more. I have all the best content available at the cheapest prices available anywhere. Sign up today for as little as $9.95. Click the link in the description. I also pinned it in the comments. Let's win more games and dominate together, boys. The dime 3-2, it does allow me to do it, but there's others that won't. Like, for instance, 5-2 normal, you'll see there is no option to change the shell, so it's not always something that you can do. Now, the main time you're going to want to be on default and the biggest advantage to it is it just makes it easier to play man coverage. So if you're one of those guys who just wants to come out in a man blitz, cover 0, or just play cover 2 man, it's just going to be easier to be on default because you can see when you're on default, you break the huddle, your defenders are in great position to play man coverage. If we come out on base, your defenders aren't necessarily going to be lined up directly over the player they're covering automatically, especially depending upon what the formation is offensively, especially a lot of, trips and bunch things, compression especially. If you're on base and man, you're not going to have the best alignment, whereas if you're on default, automatically they're going to be in good position to play man coverage. So if you want to play man, I would use default. Any other time, it's better to use base, in my opinion. So now let's talk about corner matchups, option defense, and tackling. Now, for your corner matchups, you can go balanced, overall, speed, height, route running, depth chart, etc., etc. Honestly, I'm going to be real. I leave mine on balanced. Only time I might change this is if I was playing a game mode where I didn't have a lot of fast corners and I was going up against a team with a lot of fast receivers. I probably would set the matchup by speed to make sure that I didn't have crazy speed mismatches. But, other than that, I would just leave it on balance. Now, for option defense, you can have balance, which I would never use because that's going to be inconsistent. I like to use conservative. When you put it on conservative, you're going to focus on the quarterback. You're going to make them hand the ball off. And I just feel like that's the best way to prevent big plays. If you put it on aggressive, it's essentially the opposite, which it leaves the quarterback open, and I just don't like that because I find that if I was to give up a big play with the option, it would be with the quarterback. So I'm always setting it on conservative to make them hand the ball off, and I can just, tackle the running back. I feel like that's very easy. Now, for your tackling settings, I personally leave these on balance most of the time. If you set them to conservative, you'll just get less broken tackles, but you're not really going to get as many big hits or potential fumbles. If somebody was killing you with broken tackles, you could put it on conservative. I tend to just keep it on balance. Now, if you go aggressive, you do have a better chance for fumbles and big hits, but you can't get more broken tackles and even penalties. I really find the strip ball on aggressive is risky because there will be face masks. If you put tackling on aggressive, you won't get really face masks really, but it still is a hit or miss. So for me, I do find that balance is the best. Aggressive, I guess, if you're desperate to get a fumble or a big hit later in the game, just know that it is risk to it. Now, zone drops. There's actually a lot to talk about here. Similar to the first section of the video with the base alignment and the auto flip. Zone drops, there's a lot we can do. So you can have your zone drop set anywhere from 30 to 25. It goes 30, 25, 25. So zone drops. You can change your zone drops for your flat zones, which are your light blue zones. Your curl flats, which are your purplish, pinkish zones. And your hook zones, which are your yellowish zones. For each one, you can leave them on the fault. Or you can change them to guard a specific yardage. You can go from the fault to 0 to 5, 10, 15, 20, etc., to 30, right? Now, if you leave them on the fault, there are some advantages. Let me explain. So if I was to leave my zone drops on the fault, I have flexibility with shading. I personally, most of the time, leave these on default because I have more control over my zones this way, more flexibility, because when I have cloud flats, those are going to guard about 10 to 15 yards. But if I don't want those, I can shade those underneath and get hard flats. Those will guard more like at 5 yards. Same thing with hooks. If I shade my hooks underneath, those will guard aggressive at about 5 yards. Shade it up, those will guard a little bit further back. Again, kind of similar to the cloud flat, 10 plus yards. Okay? And that can be applied to cover 3, cover 4, cover 2. Any sort of defense with flat and hook zones, this is applied. So like right here, I could be in a cover 4, got the hard flats out there. I could shade them up to get cloud flats. If I set a zone drop, I don't have any flexibility. It's going to just guard that down or that really yardage marker regardless. But there are sometimes advantages to using zone drops. The biggest advantage would be if somebody was killing you with a route you just could not guard with shading, or a route combo you couldn't guard with shading. Maybe they have a really good corner route that's just hitting you over the top of your shaded up zone. You might want to set your zone drop on your flat to like 20, 25. And then if you want to also be able to stop the flat at the same time, you can put your curl flat at 5. This way, you could potentially have, both the flats and the sidelines covered very well. So like if they were hitting you, like I said, with corner flats, like a play like this, a bench concept, right? Hey, now I have the ability to stop both at the same time with my zone drops. So to do that, I would want my outside corner. And this is actually funny. This is a big tip right here. Even though my zone drops are set to 20 right now, 20 or 25, whichever you want, you would think that, well, the blue zones, no matter what, will play the same way, but that's not the case. Cloud flats actually are really bad at defending the sideline when they're zone dropped especially. You want to zone drop hard flats. So the hard flat, it's going to sprint out to the sideline. It's going to defend it better. So I want to shade my coverage underneath to get the hard flats to play at the 20. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 2 of these hook zones in purples. This way, these will actually stop the actual flats at 5, but I'm still going to stop the corner routes at 20 or 25 with the hard flats. So take a look at this. And you guys can see, that's completely caged. That's a pick. If you look at the replay, you'll see the flat and the sideline was covered. But the most important thing about this, and this is such an underrated tip, is look at how this hard flat sprints back underneath that corner route for the pick, man. A cloud flat does not sprint back like that. It is not as good. So that is a good opportunity to use hard flats and your curl flats at zone drops. Okay, what about offense? There's less to cover on offense, but there still is some important info. So right here, tempo. You got normal, no huddle, chew clock. I would never use no huddle. I don't like it. I either use normal most of the game, or if I'm just clocking the game out where it's the end of half or I've won the game, chew clock. Okay? So deep pass catching. You got balanced, conservative, aggressive. And you also have intermediate pass catching. It's the same thing. Guys, I can promise you, these don't do anything. Leave it on balance. You can control the catch animations yourself. Don't change these. I promise you, don't change these. Blocking. Balanced, conservative, aggressive. So I leave it on balance 99% of the time. If you leave it on balance, you won't really get penalties. So there's no point to be on conservative. If you go on aggressive, it says you'll get better blocking, but you will get penalties. I've tested this, and you could just have it on for a play or two and get a penalty. So it's definitely risky, but if you want it to be risky, you could do that. Just know you could get penalties, and you probably will. Now, lastly, ball carrier. This is the other one that I actually do change a good amount. So when you're on balance, to me, that's the best of both worlds. That's what I use the most. You can do good moves. You still can fumble, though. You put on conservative. You can't really do the same moves, but you're really not going to fumble. So if, you don't want to risk fumbling, go on conservative. Now, aggressive. You go on aggressive, you definitely can fumble, but you'll definitely break more tackles. So, aggressive is useful if it's, a 4th and goal. You're on the goal line. You need that extra broken tackles. That's a good time to use it. But I wouldn't recommend playing regularly on aggressive. It's just too risky. I would say I'm balanced. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, smash that like button. Until next time, it's your boy Duke, and I'm out of here.